The sky is doing something gentle tonight. Not loudly, not dramatically, just moving, almost without being noticed. High above you, air drifts in slow layers. Invisible currents slide past one another, trading warmth and coolness, shaping tomorrow without hurry. Weather is already happening, even now as you rest here listening. Welcome to AstraFlow. Here, science drifts like starlight, and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts slow down, your breathing find its rhythm, and your mind float through wonder. You don't need to understand anything yet. You don't need to remember facts or follow explanations closely. Just let the words pass through you like a soft breeze through open curtains. Weather science is often spoken about in moments of urgency. Storm warnings, forecasts, changes coming fast. But beneath all of that is something much quieter. A planet gently breathing, a balance slowly adjusting itself, a sky that has been moving this way for billions of years. As you listen, notice your own breath. Air entering, air leaving, warmth and coolness trading places inside you. In a way, you're already participating in weather, a tiny exchange within a vast atmospheric ocean. Some people listening tonight may be new here, just discovering this quiet corner of sound and science. Others may be returning, night after night, letting these journeys fade into sleep before the ending ever arrives. Wherever you are, early in the video or drifting in and out already, you belong here. And if this calm journey brings you peace, you can gently support AstraFlow by liking this video or subscribing. It helps this quiet corner of the cosmos keep glowing. Tonight's voyage is not about storms or extremes, it's about the soft rules that guide clouds into being, the patient way sunlight warms the ground, the calm descent of evening air as night settles in. Weather is not the sky reacting, it is the sky continuing. A long, unbroken story written in temperature, pressure, and motion. A story that unfolds whether we are watching or asleep. As we move forward together, we'll explore these gentle facts slowly, one idea at a time, letting each thought arrive, linger briefly, and then dissolve. The way mist fades when morning light appears. Now, let's begin tonight's voyage into the quiet story of weather science and the calm rhythms that shape the air around you. Why does the sky change at all? It's a question that can feel simple at first, almost childlike. Why clouds gather? Why wind appears? Why one day feels warm and open and the next feels cool and hushed? But as you rest with the question, it begins to soften. The sky is not changing at us. It is not responding, deciding, or reacting. It is simply moving. The way a river moves, the way breath moves through the body. Change is the natural state of air. Above you, the atmosphere is never frozen in place. Even on the calmest, clearest night, air is sliding, gently across continents, rising slowly in one place, settling quietly in another. Weather exists because balance is always being adjusted, never rushed, never fully complete. Warm air is lighter, cool air is heavier. This simple difference is enough to set the entire sky in motion. Sunlight warms the ground unevenly. Oceans absorb heat slowly. Land warms and cools more quickly. From this gentle inequality, winds are born. Clouds gather. Rain learns where to fall. Nothing dramatic is required. You might imagine the atmosphere as a vast, slow conversation. Energy moves from where there is more to where there is less. Again and again. Always seeking rest, yet never quite arriving. In your own body, something similar is happening now. Your breath is adjusting itself without instruction. Inhale, exhale, a quiet correction each time, keeping you balanced, keeping you alive. The sky changes for the same reason you breathe. Because stillness held too long becomes uncomfortable. Motion is not disruption, it is care. Weather science, at its heart, is the study of this gentle care. Not the violence of storms, but the patience beneath them. The long preparation before any cloud thickens. The slow release of heat after sunset. The way the planet continually smooths itself out. There is something comforting in knowing that change does not require intention. The sky does not plan tomorrow. It follows simple rules, repeated endlessly, like waves arriving on shore. And as you listen now, you don't need answers. You don't need to hold the question tightly. You can let it drift, the way air drifts over mountains, reshaped without effort. Why does the sky change? Perhaps because movement is gentler than stillness, because flow prevents fracture, because balance is not a destination, but a process, slow, forgiving, and always ongoing. As we move forward, we'll begin to see weather not as something happening above you, but something happening around you and even within you. An invisible companion, guiding nights to cool, days to warm, and minds, like yours right now, toward rest. Weather science can sound, at first, like a collection of measurements, numbers, maps, symbols sliding across screens. But beneath those surfaces, weather is not a list of data points. It is a story that never pauses, a story written in motion, balance, and time. Tonight, you don't need to read that story closely. You can simply let it be told around you. Weather is the study of how air moves energy gently across the planet. Warmth drifting away from the equator. Coolness sliding back in response. Moisture lifting invisibly, then returning as rain, snow, or fog. These are not events. They are sentences in a very long paragraph that began long before humans noticed the sky. Unlike many sciences, weather does not describe objects at rest. It describes relationships, how sunlight meets ground, how oceans speak to the air above them, how mountains quietly redirect winds without effort. Everything is connected through slow exchanges, always adjusting, always flowing. You might imagine the atmosphere as a soft fabric wrapped around Earth. As the planet turns, the fabric shifts. As the sun warms one place more than another, the fabric stretches and relaxes. Creases form, smoothness returns. Clouds are simply places where the fabric thickens for a while. This is why weather never truly repeats. Even familiar patterns are slightly different each time. The same breeze never touches your skin twice. The same cloud shape never forms again in exactly the same way. And yet, it all feels familiar, because the rules remain kind and simple. For sleep, this matters. The mind often searches for certainty, for endings, for conclusions. But weather teaches a different comfort, continuity. There is no final sky, no finished atmosphere, just a gentle procession of moments, each one passing smoothly into the next. As you lie here listening, weather is happening softly around you. Air pressure adjusts by tiny amounts, temperatures drift by fractions of degrees, nothing urgent, nothing demanding attention, just quiet motion doing what it has always done. In the sections ahead, we won't rush forward. We'll follow this moving story slowly, beginning close to where you are now, then gradually widening outward. Like weather itself, we'll let understanding arrive without force and leave without resistance. Right now, as you rest, you're submerged in something you rarely notice. Not water, but air. a vast invisible ocean that surrounds your body on every side, pressing gently against your skin, filling your lungs, flowing around the shape of the earth. Weather science begins here, with the simple realization that air is not empty space. It is substance. It has weight, texture, and motion, even when it feels completely still. Every breath you take is a small exchange with this atmospheric ocean. Air moves in, air moves out, and the balance remains. On a much larger scale, the same exchange is happening continuously across the planet. Billions of tons of air are slowly circulating, guided by heat, gravity, and the turning of the Earth. This movement is so steady, so reliable, that we often forget it is there at all. The atmosphere presses down on you with a quiet, constant force called air pressure. You don't feel it because your body is perfectly adapted to it. Inside and outside remain equal. Comfort comes from balance, not from absence. This pressure is what allows clouds to form, winds to flow, and weather to exist without effort. You can imagine the air above you like a deep, calm sea. Near the surface, it is denser, warmer, and more familiar. Higher up, it thins, cools, and becomes distant. Weather happens mostly in the lowest part of this ocean, where warmth, moisture, and motion gently interact. Above that, the sky grows quieter, less involved, more like a silent witness. There is something soothing about knowing you are held inside this system, not exposed, not alone beneath the sky. You are within it, moving with it, sharing its slow rhythms. Even sleep becomes part of weather in a way, as your body cools slightly through the night, releasing heat back into the surrounding air. Nothing needs to be done. The atmosphere knows how to carry itself. It has been doing so for billions of years, long before names were given to winds or clouds. Tonight, you're simply resting inside that ancient motion, supported on all sides by something vast, soft, and endlessly patient. If you are able to rise gently upward from where you are now, you would notice something surprising. The sky is not one single space. It is layered like a quiet stack of blankets, each one thinner and cooler than the last. Weather science describes these layers not to complicate the sky, but to help us notice how gradually everything changes. Closest to the ground is the layer where you live and breathe. Here the air is thickest, warmest, and most active. This is where clouds form, winds wander, and rain learns how to fall. Almost all weather happens here, in this lowest stretch of the atmosphere, close to the surface of the Earth. It is a busy place, but never rushed. As you imagine moving higher, the air slowly thins. Temperature drops. Sounds would fade. Movement becomes slower, more restrained. The sky feels wider and quieter, as if it is stepping back and allowing the lower layers to do most of the work. Above the weather, there is calm watching. These layers are not separated by walls or sharp edges. They blend into one another gently, the way evening blends into night. Scientists give them names to keep track of them, but in reality, they are part of a smooth transition from warmth to cold, from density to openness. There is a comfort in knowing that weather is contained. It has its place. Storms do not rise forever. Clouds do not climb endlessly upward. The atmosphere is structured in a way that keeps motion close to the ground and leaves the upper sky mostly still. Balance is built in. As you rest, you might picture yourself lying beneath these layers, protected by their depth. Above you, the sky grows quieter with every imagined step upward. Below, the earth holds steady. Between the two, weather moves gently, never needing your attention. This layered sky mirrors the way sleep arrives. First, the surface of the mind settles. Thoughts slow, then deeper quiet follows layer by layer until rest feels complete. Nothing is forced, everything happens in its own time. At the heart of weather lies one of the gentlest ideas in science. Warm air rises, cool air settles. This is not a rule enforced by force, but a natural preference, like a sigh after a long day. When air warms, it becomes lighter, spreading out and lifting upward. When it cools, it grows denser, sinking back toward the earth, finding a place to rest. This quiet exchange happens constantly, all around you. Sunlight warms the ground during the day, and the air touching that ground warms too. Slowly, without any sudden movement, it begins to drift upward. Cooler air nearby slides in to take its place. No rush, no noise, just a gentle reshuffling that keeps the atmosphere alive. You can think of this motion as the breathing of the planet. Warm air rising like an inhale, cool air settling like an exhale. Together they create circulation, the foundation of winds and clouds. Without this simple rise and rest, the sky would fall into stillness and weather would fade away. At night, the process softens even further. The ground releases the heat it gathered during the day. Air near the surface cools, becoming heavier and calmer. This is why nights often feel quieter. Winds ease, movement slows. The atmosphere itself seems to lie down. Your body follows a similar rhythm. As evening arrives, your internal temperature drops slightly. Muscles loosen, breathing deepens. The same physics that guides air toward rest is guiding you now, inviting stillness without command. Weather science doesn't need drama to explain the sky. It needs patience. It needs attention to these small, steady motions that repeat endlessly, rising, settling, exchanging places in silence. Tonight, as you listen, the air above you is doing exactly that, carrying warmth away, welcoming coolness in, and preparing the world for sleep. Even when the air feels completely still, it is quietly pressing down on you. Not heavily, not uncomfortably, just enough to be there. This gentle weight is called air pressure, and it is one of the most constant companions you will ever have. Weather science pays close attention to it, but your body has learned to live with it so well that you almost never feel it at all. Every column of air above you, stretching from the ground to the edge of space, has weight. That weight presses softly on the surface of the earth, on rooftops, trees, oceans, and on you. Inside your body, pressure matches pressure. Balance is maintained. Comfort comes from this quiet agreement between inside and outside. Air pressure is never perfectly even across the planet. In some places, air presses down a little more, in others, a little less. These tiny differences are enough to set air in motion. Wind flows gently from areas of higher pressure toward areas of lower pressure, not out of urgency, but out of balance seeking. This movement is slow, patient, and often barely noticeable. When pressure changes gradually, we experience calm weather. Clear skies, light winds, a sense of openness in the air. When pressure shifts more quickly, clouds may gather or rain may form. But even then, pressure is not creating chaos. It is guiding adjustment, smoothing differences the way water levels itself in a quiet pool. You might notice pressure in subtle ways, a gentle heaviness before rain, a lightness on clear days, a quiet ache when the weather is changing. These sensations are reminders that you are deeply connected to the atmosphere, tuned to its slow movements without needing to think about them. As you rest now, pressure around you is steady and calm. The air is holding its shape. The sky is supported. Nothing is about to shift suddenly. This stability is part of why sleep feels safe. The world at this moment is balanced enough to let you go. Wind is often imagined as something sudden or forceful, but most of the time it is neither. Wind is simply air travelling from one place to another, carrying small differences in pressure and temperature along the way. It is a long ongoing conversation between distant regions of the planet, spoken very slowly. When air presses down a little more strongly in one place and a little less in another, the atmosphere responds by sliding gently sideways. This sideways motion is wind. It does not leap or rush unless something interrupts it. Most winds wander, they curve, they pause, they change their minds gradually. You can think of wind as memory in motion. Air that was warmed over an ocean may drift inland, bringing softness with it. Air that cooled over land at night may slide back toward the sea by morning. In this way, places share their conditions with one another, smoothing extremes and spreading balance. The strongest winds often exist high above the ground, where friction is low and movement can stretch out over thousands of kilometers. Closer to the surface, trees, buildings, and hills slow the air down, breaking its speed into gentle textures. What reaches you is usually a softened version of something much larger. As wind moves, it rarely announces itself. It hums through leaves, it brushes skin lightly, it moves clouds without disturbing their shape. Often, you notice it only by its effects, not its presence. This subtlety is part of its calm. Tonight the air outside is likely speaking quietly. Even if you hear nothing, wind may still be passing overhead, continuing a journey that began far away. It does not need your attention. It does not require response. Like the words you are hearing now, it can simply move past you, carrying calm from one place to another. Beneath every breeze, every drifting cloud, there's a slow, steady motion that never stops. The earth is turning, not quickly, not dramatically, just once every day, carrying the atmosphere with it. Weather science listens closely to this quiet rotation, because it gently shapes how air moves across the planet. As the earth spins, air does not travel in perfectly straight lines. Instead, its path curves softly. To the air itself, nothing feels unusual. It is simply continuing forward while the ground beneath shifts. Over long distances, this creates broad, graceful patterns in the sky, guiding winds into arcs rather than lines. These curved paths help form large wind systems that circle the globe, transporting warmth toward cooler regions and returning cooler air back again. The motion is slow and persistent, like a clock hand moving so gently you barely notice it change position. Yet without it, weather would lose its familiar structure. There is comfort in knowing that weather is guided by something so reliable. The Earth has been turning this way for billions of years, setting the rhythm long before any forecast or measurement existed. Each rotation is a quiet promise that balance will continue. As night deepens, the turning of the planet carries your location gently away from the sun. Temperatures ease downward. The atmosphere responds by settling. The world seems to exhale. Sleep often arrives not because we choose it, but because the Earth has rotated us into a cooler, quieter place. You don't need to feel this movement. You don't need to imagine spinning through space. The turning is slow enough to be kind, steady enough to be trusted. Tonight, as you rest, the planet is still moving for you, keeping the sky in motion while you drift towards stillness. Before a cloud ever appears in the sky, there's a long moment of quiet preparation. Nothing visible is happening yet. Air is simply cooling, very slowly. holding invisible water vapor within it. Weather science often begins clouds here, in stillness rather than motion. Warm air can hold more water vapor than cool air. As air rises gently, it expands and cools. When it cools enough, it reaches a point where it can no longer keep all that vapor hidden. The water does not rush out, it gathers patiently, condensing into tiny droplets or ice crystals, each one far too small to fall. Together they hover. A cloud is not a single thing. It is millions of tiny moments of balance suspended between rising and resting. Each droplet is held aloft by air moving upward just enough to keep it there. This is why clouds can appear to float, unmoving, even while the atmosphere is quietly shifting around them. From the ground, clouds often look complete, as if they arrive fully formed. But in truth, they are always becoming. Edges dissolve and reform. Thickness changes. Light filters through differently from one moment to the next. A cloud is less an object and more a process. There is something deeply calming about this kind of formation. Nothing is forced. Nothing is assembled quickly. Clouds appear when conditions are ready and fade when they are not. They do not cling to their shape. They accept change without resistance. As you rest now, you might imagine thoughts in the same way, rising gently, cooling, condensing, then drifting away again without needing to fall. The sky knows how to let things form without holding them too tightly. Tonight, you can let your mind do the same, allowing stillness to be the beginning of rest. Once clouds have formed, the sky begins to express itself through shape. Not deliberately, not artistically, but naturally. Weather science groups clouds into types, yet these categories are more like gentle observations than strict rules. The sky prefers suggestion over precision, softness over edges. Some clouds spread out into long, thin layers, covering the sky like a quiet blanket. These often form when air rises slowly and evenly with no urgency. They soften light, blur shadows, and make the world feel hushed. Other clouds build upward in gentle towers, rising where warm air lifts a little more confidently. Even then, most remain calm, drifting without rain, changing shape as they go. There are also clouds so high and thin they look like brush strokes, barely there. These form where the air is cold and dry, far above everyday weather. They do not shade the ground or carry moisture. They simply mark the sky, reminding us of motion at a distance. What's important is that no cloud shape is permanent. The sky does not repeat itself exactly. Each form exists briefly, then softens, stretches, or dissolves. Even when clouds seem unchanged, they are quietly rearranging themselves, guided by invisible currents. This constant reshaping is not instability. It is ease. The ski is comfortable letting go of its forms, knowing others will appear when the time is right. There is no effort to preserve a moment. Everything is allowed to pass. As you listen, you might notice your own thoughts behaving similarly. Images appear, linger gently, then fade. Nothing needs to be held in place. The mind, like the sky, is at its calmest when it allows shapes to come and go without resistance. Rain does not begin with falling. It begins with patience. Inside a cloud, tiny droplets of water drift gently, held aloft by rising air. Each one is so small that gravity barely notices it. Weather science tells us that before rain ever reaches the ground, there is a long period of quiet gathering. As clouds move and change, droplets sometimes meet. They touch, merge, and become slightly larger. This happens slowly, again and again, until a droplet grows heavy enough to begin its descent. Even then, it does not rush. It wavers. It is shaped by the air it moves through, slowed and guided all the way down. Rain is not released all at once. It arrives drop by drop, each following a slightly different path. Some evaporate before reaching the ground. Others land softly on leaves, rooftops, soil, or water, disappearing almost as soon as they arrive. Falling is only one brief part of their journey. There is something reassuring in how careful this process is. Rain does not force itself downward. It waits until conditions are right. It responds to balance, not urgency. When rain finally falls, it is because the atmosphere has quietly agreed that it is time. Listening to rain often brings calm because it mirrors the way rest should arrive. Not suddenly, not all at once, but gradually, as thoughts combine, grow heavier, and gently settle. The sound of rain is the sound of completion, of motion returning to the surface. Tonight, whether rain is falling near you or far away, the same slow process is happening somewhere in the sky. Droplets are learning how to fall, and in that patient motion, the world is being reminded how to soften. High in the cold air, far above where rain can form, water follows a different path. Instead of gathering as liquid, it settles into ice, arranging itself molecule by molecule into delicate repeating shapes. Snow does not rush into being. It grows slowly, guided by temperature, humidity, and time. Each snow crystal begins around a tiny particle, something almost nothing-sized drifting in the air. Water vapor settles onto it, freezes, and adds itself carefully to the structure. As the crystal falls, it passes through slightly different layers of air, each one shaping its form. Tiny changes in temperature or moisture alter the pattern, branch by branch. This is why no two snowflakes are exactly alike. Not because nature is trying to be creative, but because the journey is never repeated. The air is always a little different. The path is always unique. Snow becomes a record of where it has been, written in quiet geometry. Despite this complexity, snow feels simple when it arrives. It muffles sound, it softens edges, it slows the world. Snowfall often comes with stillness, as if the sky itself has decided to speak more quietly. Movement becomes gentle, light diffuses, everything rests a little more deeply. There is something calming about knowing that such intricate patterns can emerge without planning or effort. Snow forms through repetition and patience, not intention. It reminds us that beauty does not require speed. It unfolds when conditions allow and never asks to be remembered. As you listen now, you might imagine those slow, silent crystals drifting downward, turning gently, finding their place. Let that unhurried motion guide your own thoughts. Nothing needs to arrive quickly. Rest, like snow, forms best when it is allowed to take its time. Imagine being inside a single cloud, not above it, not watching from the ground, but within it, surrounded on all sides by softness. There is no clear edge here, no horizon, just light diffused into a gentle glow, and air holding countless tiny droplets in quiet suspension. Inside a cloud, nothing feels urgent. The droplets are not rushing upward or falling down. They are simply resting in balance, supported by air that rises just enough to keep them there. Motion exists, but it is so slow it feels like stillness. Weather science calls this equilibrium. The sky, for a moment, has found a place where opposing movements agree. From the outside, clouds appear to travel. They seem to drift across the sky, changing position, reshaping themselves as they go. But inside there is no sense of destination, no feeling of passing time. The cloud is not going anywhere in particular, it is simply continuing to be. This is one of the quiet truths of the atmosphere. Much of what we call movement is actually a collection of tiny balances held together. Clouds persist, not because they are strong, but because conditions remain kind. When those conditions change, the cloud does not resist. It thins, fades, and becomes air again. There's a deep rest in this idea. Nothing is clung to, nothing is lost. Form appears when it can, and disappears when it must. The atmosphere does not mourn a cloud that dissolves. It knows another will form elsewhere when the moment is right. As you rest now, let your mind become cloud-like. Thoughts may be present, but they do not need to move. Sensations may drift through, but they do not need to land. You can float here, suspended between waking and sleep, supported by balance rather than effort. For a while, you are not going anywhere. You are simply here, drifting nowhere, and that is enough. Sometimes the sky chooses closeness. Instead of forming clouds high above, moisture gathers near the surface, wrapping the world in softness. Fog is not a separate kind of weather. It is simply a cloud that has settled low enough to touch the ground. Fog forms when air near the surface cools just enough to condense its moisture. This often happens at night, when the ground releases heat back into the open sky. The air in contact with it cools, becomes heavy with tiny droplets, and gently fills the space between trees, buildings, and roads. The result is a world with shorter distances and quieter edges. There is something deeply calming about fog. It hides nothing harsh. It does not announce itself. It simply reduces how far you can see, inviting attention inward instead of outward. Sound softens, movement slows. The world feels smaller, safer, more contained. Weather science describes fog with careful terms and categories, but the experience of it is always personal. Walking through fog feels like being held. The air presses lightly against skin, and light loses its sharpness. There is no horizon to reach for, no far distance to consider. Fog reminds us that clarity is not always necessary. Sometimes rest comes from not seeing too far ahead, from allowing the world to exist only as far as the next breath, the next step, the next quiet moment. As you listen now, imagine the sky lowering itself gently around you, not to overwhelm, but to comfort. Tonight, you don't need wide views or long thoughts. Like fog, you can let your awareness stay close, soft, and calm. Storms are often spoken about as if they are emotional events, as if the sky becomes upset or violent. But weather science tells a quieter story. A storm is not anger. It is imbalance seeking resolution. It is the atmosphere noticing a difference, and gently, sometimes dramatically, working to smooth it out. When warm, moist air gathers near the surface and cooler air waits above, the atmosphere becomes layered with contrast. Energy builds, not because anything is wrong, but because conditions have allowed difference to grow. Eventually, air begins to rise more strongly, clouds thicken, and a storm takes shape. Not as a decision, but as a release. Even the most powerful storms are guided by simple rules. Warm air rises, cool air descends, pressure shifts, moisture condenses. There is no intention behind it, only physics repeating itself at a larger scale. When the imbalance fades, the storm fades with it. Calm returns naturally. It can be comforting to see storms this way, not as threats, but as temporary expressions of change. They do not last because they cannot. Their purpose, if it can be called that, is to redistribute energy and then dissolve back into quieter patterns. In life, inner storms often feel overwhelming because we resist them or assign meaning too quickly. But like weather, Emotions can be seen as movements passing through. They rise when conditions allow and settle when balance returns. Nothing needs to be forced away. As you rest now, remember that the atmosphere outside knows how to calm itself. Even after thunder and heavy rain, the air feels clearer, lighter, more settled. The skier remembers how to return to ease. Your mind can do the same, letting any remaining turbulence pass on its own. Thunder is often experienced as something sudden, a sharp sound that arrives without warning. But in truth, thunder takes a long time to prepare. Long before any sound reaches your ears, the atmosphere has already been quietly arranging the conditions for it. Weather science reminds us that even the loudest moments begin in silence. Inside a tall storm cloud, warm air rises steadily, carrying moisture upward. As it climbs, droplets freeze, melt, and freeze again, colliding softly in the dark interior of the cloud. These movements separate electric charges, slowly building invisible differences across great distances. Nothing happens all at once. Energy gathers patiently, layer by layer. Only when the difference becomes large enough does lightning appear, briefly connecting sky to sky or sky to ground. Thunder follows later, not as an explosion, but as air responding. Lightning heats the surrounding air so quickly that it expands, then relaxes. The sound you hear is the atmosphere adjusting itself, echoing outward in waves. This delay between lightning and thunder is a reminder of distance and scale. Light arrives almost instantly. Sound takes time. The farther away the storm is, the longer the pause. In that pause there is space. Space to breathe. Space to remember that nothing is rushing toward you. Thunder does not linger. It rolls, fades, and dissolves back into quiet. The sky does not hold on to its loudest moments. It releases them and moves on, returning to softer motions and gentler sounds. As you rest now, you might think of thunder not as disturbance, but as completion. A final adjustment after energy has moved where it needed to go. Even the loudest weather knows how to end. And in that knowing, there is reassurance. Calm always follows. Lightning is one of the fastest events in weather, yet it exists only for an instant. A thin, bright line appears, connects distant regions of air, and vanishes before the eye can fully follow it. Weather science describes lightning not as destruction, but as balance restored in a single, precise moment. Inside a storm cloud, electrical charges have been slowly separating, building quiet tension across large spaces. Lightning forms when that difference becomes large enough to overcome the air's resistance. The air, usually an insulator, briefly becomes a pathway. Energy moves, the difference collapses, balance returns. What's remarkable is how little time this takes. The flash lasts only fractions of a second. There is no lingering glow, no extended effort. Lightning does exactly what it needs to do, and then it is gone. The sky does not hold on to it. It does not repeat the moment unnecessarily. From a distance, lightning can look dramatic, but from the perspective of the atmosphere, it is efficient, a short correction in a much longer process. Most of the storm remains slow and patient. The lightning is simply a punctuation mark. There is something calming in this efficiency. Even intense moments in nature are brief. They arise when needed and end as soon as their purpose is complete. The atmosphere does not spiral, it resolves. As you rest now, let this be a quiet reminder. Sudden thoughts, sharp images, or brief wakeful moments do not need to linger. Like lightning, they can appear, complete their motion, and fade. What remains afterward is not emptiness, but balance returning. And balance is where rest lives. After rain has passed, the world feels different, even if nothing visible has changed. The air is cooler, heavier with moisture and quieter. Sounds travel differently. Edges soften. Weather science explains this gently. Rain cleans the air, settles dust and redistributes heat. But what you feel is something simpler. The atmosphere has finished adjusting, and now it rests. In this moment there is no urgency left in the sky. Clouds thin and drift apart. Winds ease into lighter motions. The ground releases a faint, earthy scent as water meets soil and stone. This is not an event. It is an after effect, a slow exhale following movement. Listening after rain can be deeply calming because there is so little to listen to. No sharp wind, no falling drops, just the distant hum of a world continuing at a lower volume. Even birds often pause, as if acknowledging the quiet before returning to motion. The atmosphere, at this point, is balanced again. Differences in temperature and pressure have softened. Energy has been shared. Nothing needs to rise strongly or fall quickly. This is one of the most restful states weather can reach, and it happens often, unnoticed. You can let your mind mirror this state now. Thoughts that moved earlier have settled. Images fade into softer impressions. Breathing slows naturally without instruction. There is no need to focus. Awareness can rest lightly, the way sound rests in dampened air. After rain, the ski does not celebrate its calm. It simply continues. That continuation is the gift. Tonight you can rest inside that same gentle aftermath, where nothing is beginning and nothing is ending. Everything is simply quiet enough to sleep. Weather does not only change from hour to hour or day to day, it also moves in much slower rhythms, stretching across months, guided by the steady tilt of the earth as it travels around the sun. These rhythms are what we call seasons. In weather science, seasons are not switches being flipped. They are long, gradual breaths. As the earth orbits the sun, different parts of the planet receive sunlight at different angles. When sunlight arrives more directly, it warms the ground more efficiently. When it arrives at a slant, its warmth spreads out and softens. This simple geometric change is enough to guide the slow turning of the year. Because land and ocean respond to sunlight at different speeds, the atmosphere adjusts patiently. Heat builds slowly. Cold retreats gradually. Winds shift their preferred paths over weeks and months. Nothing changes overnight. The sky gives itself time to adapt. You can feel this gentleness in the way seasons arrive. Spring does not appear all at once. It hints. Summer does not vanish suddenly. It lingers. Even winter settles in step by step, allowing the world to prepare. This pacing is intentional, built into the system, protecting life from sudden extremes. Seasons offer a deep kind of reassurance. They show that change can be predictable without being rigid. That motion can be slow enough to feel safe. The same rhythm returns again and again, not because it must, but because the conditions remain kind. As you rest now, imagine the year itself breathing, warming, cooling, expanding, releasing. Your own body follows a similar pattern each night, letting warmth fade slightly, letting stillness arrive. Sleep is a small season of its own, repeating daily, steady and familiar. In the quiet of this moment, there is no need to think ahead to what comes next. Like the sky between seasons, you're in a gentle transition, held within a rhythm that knows how to carry you forward without effort. One of the quiet gifts of weather is that it changes without surprising us too much. Even though no day is exactly the same, the larger patterns are familiar. Mornings tend to warm, evenings tend to cool. Seasons arrive in an order we recognize. Weather science shows us that this predictability is not boring. It is comforting. The atmosphere follows rules that repeat gently. When sunlight increases, temperatures slowly rise. When daylight shortens, cooling follows. These patterns allow living things to prepare, to adjust, to rest when needed. Predictable change creates trust. The world feels less sharp when we know what direction it is moving in. For humans, this matters deeply. The body responds to rhythm. Waking and sleeping, warming and cooling, activity and rest. When weather follows familiar paths, the nervous system relaxes. There is less need to stay alert, less need to watch closely. The sky is doing what it has done before. Even unexpected weather sits within these broader expectations. A sudden, cool day in summer still belongs to summer. A warm afternoon in winter does not erase the season. The larger rhythm holds steady, allowing small variations without breaking the pattern. As you listen now, notice how comfort often comes not from excitement but from repetition. The same gentle words, the same calm tone, the same slow pace. Like weather, these repetitions are not meant to entertain. They are meant to support rest. Tonight you are resting inside a system that values gradual change. Nothing will shift too quickly. Nothing will demand sudden attention. The sky knows how to move without startling. And in that steady movement, your body is free to let go. At the center of almost every weather process is the sun, quietly doing its work without variation or intention. It does not chase storms or guide clouds directly. It simply shines. Weather science understands the sun not as a controller, but as a steady source of energy that the Earth responds to in its own patient way. Sunlight warms the surface unevenly. Oceans absorb heat slowly and release it gradually. Land warms more quickly and cools more quickly too. From this gentle imbalance, the atmosphere begins to move. Air rises where warmth collects. Cooler air drifts in to replace it. Winds form. Clouds follow. The sun does not command these changes. It allows them. Even on cloudy days, sunlight is present. It filters through layers of vapor and ice, spreading softly across the ground. Weather does not stop when the sun is hidden. It simply adjusts, redistributing what energy remains available. This consistency is what makes the system feel safe. The source never disappears. As evening arrives and the sun slips below the horizon, the Earth begins to release the warmth it gathered during the day. The atmosphere responds by settling. Movement slows. The world cools gently, preparing both sky and body for rest. Night is not an absence of energy. It is a quieter phase of exchange. There is something reassuring about this quiet authority. The sun does not rush. It does not vary its pace for urgency. It offers the same steady presence day after day, allowing weather to unfold naturally. Your own body responds to this rhythm, warming during the day, cooling at night, guided without conscious effort. As you listen now, the sun is still shining somewhere on Earth, continuing its gentle work. And here, in its absence, calm deepens. The system is balanced enough to let you sleep. When night arrives, it does not bring stillness immediately. It brings release. The ground, which has quietly absorbed warmth all day, begins to let that heat go. It drifts upward into the dark sky, spreading out, thinning, becoming part of space. Weather science calls this cooling. To the body, it feels like relief. As surfaces cool, the air touching them cools too. This air becomes denser and settles closer to the ground. Movement slows. Winds ease. The atmosphere lowers its voice. This is why nights often feel calmer than days, even when the weather remains the same. Cooling happens gradually. There is no moment when the world suddenly becomes cold. Temperature slips downward in small steps, each one barely noticeable. This slow descent is kind. It gives plants, animals, and people time to adjust, to shift toward rest without resistance. Your body responds in the same way. As evening deepens, internal temperature drops slightly. Muscles loosen. Breathing lengthens. The nervous system recognizes the signal. Night is not asking for alertness. It is inviting restoration. Even clouds behave differently at night. Without strong sunlight to warm the air beneath them, rising motion weakens. Clouds thin or spread out. The sky grows simpler, fewer shapes, less texture, more open darkness. As you lie here listening, the world around you is cooling at a pace designed for sleep. Nothing is being rushed, nothing is being pushed. The planet itself is settling in, and your rest is part of that larger motion. Temperature is often spoken about as a number, degrees rising, degrees falling. But long before it is measured, temperature is felt. It is the quiet language between your skin and the air around you. Weather science can describe it precisely, yet its most important meaning is simple: comfort or discomfort, ease or tension. Warmth allows muscles to loosen. Coolness invites stillness. Neither is better than the other. They are partners, trading places gently as day turns to night. When the air cools in the evening, it is not trying to chill the world. It is guiding it toward rest, encouraging energy to slow and gather inward. At night, temperature differences across the landscape soften. The sharp contrasts of daytime fade. Heat stored in roads, soil, and buildings releases slowly, smoothing the air above it. This creates a sense of sameness, a quiet balance that makes sleep feel safer. Extremes retreat. Subtlety remains. Your body senses this without thought. Skin receptors notice the coolness. Breathing deepens slightly. The mind interprets these signals as permission. You do not need to stay alert. You do not need to move quickly. The environment has lowered its demands. In weather, temperature drives motion, but here, in this moment, it is doing the opposite. It is reducing motion, encouraging settling. The atmosphere is not asking anything of you. It is simply sharing a calm state. Let yourself rest inside this shared feeling, not a number, not a measurement, just the quiet agreement between air and body that it is time to slow. This is one of the deepest comforts weather offers, and it is happening now without effort. Far from where you are resting now, the oceans are quietly shaping the weather above you. Even if you live deep inland, the sea is still involved. Weather science understands oceans as vast reservoirs of heat, storing energy patiently and releasing it slowly, teaching the atmosphere how to move with restraint. Water changes temperature more slowly than land. It absorbs warmth without rushing and gives it back just as gently. Because of this, air above the ocean is often steadier, less extreme. Winds that travel over water carry this moderation with them, softening climates far from the coast. When warm air rises over the sea, moisture comes with it. Clouds form. Rain may follow. But the ocean does not lose its calm. It continues absorbing sunlight by day and releasing warmth by night, smoothing the atmosphere one exchange at a time. This slow teaching role is why coastal regions often feel gentler in their weather. Fewer sharp temperature swings, more gradual changes. The ocean acts like a deep, steady breath beneath the sky, keeping motion even and predictable. As you rest now, imagine the oceans continuing their work, Wave by wave, exchange by exchange. They are not reacting to the moment. They are responding to centuries. Their influence moves quietly through the atmosphere, reaching you eventually as calmer air, softened winds, and familiar seasons. There is comfort in knowing that some systems move too slowly to worry. The oceans do not hurry. They do not overcorrect. They provide stability simply by being large and patient. Tonight, that patience extends to you, carried invisibly through the air you breathe. Beneath the visible motion of waves, the oceans are always moving in deeper, quieter ways. Vast currents flow slowly through the water, carrying warmth and coolness across the planet. Weather science listens closely to these currents because they guide the atmosphere gently over long stretches of time. Some ocean currents move warm water toward cooler regions, releasing heat into the air above them. Others carry cooler water back toward warmer places, absorbing excess warmth along the way. These exchanges happen gradually, often taking years to complete a single circuit. There is no rush beneath the surface. Because of these currents, air above the ocean behaves differently than air over land. It becomes steadier, less extreme. Winds travelling over these waters pick up that steadiness and carry it onward. In this way, the ocean speaks to the sky in a calm, continuous voice. You can think of ocean currents as memory. Heat gathered long ago is released somewhere else, long after it was absorbed. Weather, then, is not only about the present moment, it is shaped by what happened seasons or even years before, still influencing the air today. There is something deeply reassuring in this delayed response. It means the world does not overreact. Changes are smoothed out over time. Extremes are softened before they reach you. Balance is maintained not by speed, but by depth. As you rest now, these slow currents continue, far below the surface, unseen and unfelt, yet constantly supportive. They are part of the reason the air around you can be calm enough for sleep. The planet is remembering how to stay steady, and that memory is holding you gently tonight. Weather and climate are often spoken of together, but they are different in a gentle, important way. Weather is what the sky is doing now or soon. Climate is the quiet pattern beneath it, the long memory of how the sky usually behaves. Weather science holds both at once without letting them compete. Weather is immediate, a cool evening, a drifting cloud, a light wind passing through trees. It changes easily and often. Climate changes slowly, measured not in moments, but in years and decades. It is the background rhythm that weather moves within, like a melody resting on a steady beat. This distinction matters because it brings calm to understanding. A single storm does not define a season. A warm afternoon does not erase winter. Each moment belongs to something larger, held inside patterns that move patiently forward. Nothing needs to be concluded too quickly. For the atmosphere, this separation allows flexibility. Weather can vary freely, adjusting day by day, while climate maintains stability over time. One offers movement, the other offers reassurance. Together, they keep the system resilient without becoming rigid. As you listen now, the weather around you may be doing very little, or it may be quietly active somewhere nearby. Either way, it is resting inside a broader calm that does not change suddenly. That larger pattern is what allows sleep to feel safe. The world is not shifting beneath you without warning. You can let this idea settle gently. You do not need to track every change. You can trust that short moments belong to longer stories, and that those stories unfold slowly enough to hold you. Weather may wander, but climate provides the steady ground beneath it, and beneath you as well. Some patterns in weather move so slowly that a single human life can only glimpse them. These are rhythms that stretch across decades, shaped by oceans, ice, land, and the steady energy of the sun. Weather science observes them patiently, knowing they cannot be rushed into clarity. These long patterns guide where rain tends to return, how seasons lean warmer or cooler over time, and how winds prefer certain paths year after year. They are not rigid rules, they are tendencies, soft preferences the planet develops as it responds to itself. Nothing here happens suddenly. Change arrives by accumulation, not by surprise. Because these patterns are slow, they are gentle teachers. They remind us that not everything important is immediate. Some balances take time to reveal themselves. Some adjustments happen quietly in the background while daily life continues unaware. There is comfort in knowing the world moves on scales larger than worry. That not every fluctuation demands attention, that beneath daily variation there is patience at work. The atmosphere remembers what has come before and carries that memory forward carefully. As you rest now, you are held within systems that do not depend on quick reactions. The air above you is shaped by motions that began long ago and will continue long after this night has passed. You do not need to keep watch. You do not need to anticipate. These patterns are slow enough to allow you to sleep. Imagine standing very still while a light breeze moves past you. It doesn't push, it doesn't insist. It simply passes, touching skin, hair, fabric, and then moving on. Weather science would describe this as air responding to gentle pressure differences. But what you feel is something much simpler: motion without demand. A breeze carries no urgency. It has already travelled far before it reaches you, softened by distance, shaped by land and water. By the time it arrives, it has forgotten where it began. It exists only in the present moment, sliding around you, never asking for attention. Inside a breeze, there is no clear direction to focus on. Air wraps rather than approaches. It cools slightly, then disappears. This is one of the quietest ways weather can be experienced, and one of the most restful. Movement is present, but it does not interrupt stillness. The atmosphere uses breezes to share balance gently. Warmth drifts away. Coolness arrives. Nothing dramatic changes, yet everything is subtly adjusted. This is how most of the world is cared for, not by storms, but by countless small motions that go unnoticed. As you rest now, you can imagine that same breeze moving through your thoughts, not clearing them away, not pushing them aside, simply passing through, leaving space behind. Sensations come and go. Awareness remains soft. You do not need to follow the breeze. You do not need to name it. You can stand inside it or lie inside it, letting motion exist without participation. This is one of the deepest forms of rest the atmosphere knows, and it is available to you now. Long before instruments, screens, or forecasts, humans learned weather by listening. They watched how clouds gathered near mountains. They noticed the smell of rain before it fell. They felt shifts in wind on their skin and understood that change was coming. Weather science began not as control but as attention. Early observation was slow and patient. People learned patterns by living within them. A certain colour of sky at dusk, a certain stillness before dawn. These signs were not precise, but they were reliable enough to guide planting, travel, and rest. Knowledge formed gently, shaped by repetition rather than urgency. Even today, with satellites and data, this quiet reading still matters. Instruments extend our senses, but they do not replace them. The sky continues to speak in subtle ways, and the body continues to listen, often without words. A feeling of heaviness, a sudden calm, a cooling breeze at the edge of evening. There is something calming about this shared skill across time. You are part of a long line of people who have rested under changing skies, learning when to move and when to be still. The atmosphere has always been teacher, offering lessons slowly enough to be absorbed without effort. As you listen now, you don't need to interpret the sky. You don't need to predict anything. Simply knowing that weather has always been read gently, patiently, is enough. The world does not demand constant vigilance. It allows quiet awareness, and then it allows sleep. Modern weather forecasts can look confident, filled with symbols, colours and numbers. But at their heart, forecasts are not declarations. They are careful guesses, offered with humility. Weather science understands that the atmosphere is vast, complex and always in motion. Prediction here is never absolute. To forecast weather, scientists gather countless observations, temperatures, pressures, winds, moisture. These measurements are fed into models that simulate how the atmosphere might move next. Might is the key word. The future sky is approached as a range of possibilities, not a single certainty. Small differences matter. A tiny shift in temperature, a slight change in wind direction, can alter outcomes over time. Because of this, forecasts become less precise the farther they look ahead. This is not failure, it is honesty. The atmosphere is sensitive, responsive, alive with variation. There is something comforting in this uncertainty. It reminds us that the world is not rigid. It does not lock itself into one outcome. Instead, it explores possibilities gently, adjusting as it goes. Weather is allowed to be flexible, and so are we. As you rest now, you don't need to forecast anything. Tomorrow does not need to be mapped out. The mind can release its habit of prediction. Like the sky, it can exist in a range of calm possibilities, none of them demanding attention right now. Forecasts help us prepare, but they also teach us to accept not knowing everything. Tonight, you are free from needing certainty. The atmosphere will continue its gentle work, and you can continue drifting towards sleep without planning the next moment. High above the moving weather, far beyond clouds and wind, satellites circle the Earth in quiet paths. They do not feel storms, they do not hear rain, they simply watch. Weather science uses these distant observers to see the whole planet at once, but the satellites themselves remain untouched by what they observe. From their steady orbits, satellites gather light, heat, and motion. They notice where clouds thicken, where oceans warm, where air spirals gently around pressure systems. They record without judgment, returning the same calm gaze again and again, day and night. There is something soothing about this perspective. From far enough away, weather looks slow and graceful. Storms stretch into spirals, clouds become soft brushstrokes. Motion feels continuous rather than urgent. The planet appears less chaotic, more like a single breathing system. Satellites remind us that distance can bring calm. Stepping back does not remove care. It changes how things are held. From above, nothing needs immediate reaction. Everything fits into larger patterns that unfold with patience. As you rest now, you might imagine your thoughts being observed from far away. Not analysed, not corrected. Simply noticed, then allowed to pass. From that distance, even busy moments look gentle. Even movement feels smooth. The sky still moving beneath those silent watchers, and you're still moving gently towards sleep. No one is rushing. Nothing is being judged. The world is simply continuing, and that continuation is enough to let you rest. Weather has a quiet way of attaching itself to memory, not through facts or measurements, but through feeling. A certain kind of light before rain, the smell of warm air after sunset, the sound of wind moving through trees at night. Weather science can explain these moments, but memory keeps them softly, without explanation. Often we remember places through their weather. A coastline remembered for its steady breeze, your childhood home recalled through summer heat or winter fog. These impressions stay because weather is experienced with the whole body, not just the mind. It surrounds, touches, and passes through us. The atmosphere does not try to make memories. It simply repeats its patterns gently enough that the mind recognizes them. Over time, these repetitions become familiar, and familiarity becomes comfort. Even changing weather can feel safe when it fits into a remembered rhythm. There is also a deeper memory held by the planet itself. The air remembers warmth released earlier in the day. The oceans remember sunlight absorbed seasons ago. Weather carries these memories forward, redistributing them slowly so nothing is lost too quickly. As you rest now, your own memory can soften. You don't need to recall details. You don't need to hold on to images. Like weather, memory can drift, keeping only what feels gentle enough to stay. The rest can fade naturally. Tonight, let the air around you be familiar, even if you don't know exactly why. Let comfort come from recognition rather than thought. Weather has always known how to pass through memory without disturbing rest, and now so do you. When wind moves through trees, it rarely announces itself as wind. It becomes sound instead. Leaves brush against one another. Branches sway and return. The air translates motion into a low, steady language that feels older than words. Weather science explains the mechanics, but the body responds without needing explanation. Wind passing through trees is air meeting structure. Each leaf, each needle, each branch shapes the flow slightly differently. Together, they break the movement into countless small interactions, turning speed into softness. This is why the sound is calming. No single emotion dominates. Everything shares the movement. The rhythm is never exact. It changes subtly from moment to moment, preventing the mind from locking onto repetition too tightly. This gentle variation keeps awareness relaxed, alert enough to listen but calm enough to drift. It is one of the most natural sleep sounds the atmosphere creates. Even indoors, far from forests, the memory of this sound can appear. A similar hush, a similar ebb and return. The mind recognizes the pattern and understands that nothing urgent is happening. The world is moving, but safely. As you listen now, you might imagine that sound existing somewhere nearby or far away. You do not need to hear it clearly. Just knowing it exists is enough. Wind is still moving through trees somewhere on Earth, translating motion into calm, and that calm is available to you as you continue toward rest. Weather often inspires wonder, but that wonder does not have to come from fear or intensity. Weather science shows us that most atmospheric beauty exists in calm states. Soft light through clouds, a steady breeze at dusk, the slow clearing of the sky after rain. These moments carry awe without threat. When we understand the sky a little more, urgency fades. A dark cloud becomes a process, not a warning. A shifting wind becomes adjustment, not alarm. Knowledge here does not remove mystery. It softens it, allowing curiosity to rest instead of react. This kind of wonder is quiet. It does not demand attention or excitement. It invites observation without expectation. The sky is not performing, it is simply continuing, and that continuation is enough to feel meaningful. For the mind, this matters. Wonder without danger allows relaxation. The nervous system does not need to prepare or defend. It can open gently, noticing beauty while remaining at ease. This is the kind of wonder that belongs naturally with sleep. As you rest now, you're allowed to be curious without effort. You can appreciate the atmosphere without needing it to do anything special. The sky does not need to surprise you to be interesting. Its calm persistence is already enough. Tonight, let wonder be soft. Let it drift in the background, like distant light behind thin clouds. Nothing needs to happen. Nothing needs to be understood fully. The sky is moving gently, and you're free to rest within that motion. There is another way to feel time, one that does not rely on clocks or numbers. Weather science hints at it when we watch clouds move across the sky. Not quickly, not with urgency, just slowly enough that change can be noticed without being chased. Clouds do not mark minutes or hours, they mark moments of becoming. A thin veil thickens, an edge dissolves, a gap opens and closes again. If you watch long enough, you realize that time here is not something that passes, it is something that unfolds. This is why looking at the sky can make time feel softer. The mind stops counting and starts observing. There is no deadline in a drifting cloud, no finish line in a clearing sky. Everything is allowed to take as long as it needs. Weather teaches us that time does not have to feel sharp. It can be rounded, stretched, almost weightless. A morning can feel long and gentle. An evening can slip by without being noticed. The atmosphere does not rush from one state to another. It eases. As you rest now, you're not required to keep track of time. You do not need to know how long you have been listening, or how long sleep will take to arrive. Like clouds, your awareness can move without a schedule, changing shape slowly until it fades into rest. Tonight, let time be measured in softness, in the length of a breath, in the pause between words, in the quiet space where nothing is expected. This is the time the sky lives in, and it is enough to carry you gently towards sleep. There are moments when the sky seems to be doing almost nothing at all. No clouds forming, no wind shifting, no rain preparing to fall, just openness, a wide, quiet expanse where motion is so subtle it feels absent. Weather science recognizes these moments not as emptiness, but as balance held gently in place. In these conditions, temperature differences are small. Pressure is even. Air has little reason to rise or sink. The atmosphere rests within itself, suspended in a calm agreement. This is not a pause before action. It is a state of ease that can last for hours, sometimes longer. From the ground, this kind of sky feels spacious. Light is steady, shadows are soft, sounds carry without sharpness. Nothing competes for attention. The world seems content to simply exist, without announcing change or asking for response. There is deep rest in this idea. Not every moment needs to move forward. Not every system needs to be active. Sometimes stability itself is the most supportive state. The sky knows this. It allows itself to be still when stillness is available. As you rest now, you can let your own awareness mirror this sky. Thoughts may slow to the point of quiet. Sensations may fade into the background. You do not need to direct this. You do not need to notice when it happens. Like the atmosphere, you can settle into balance without effort. For a while, nothing needs to change. The sky is doing nothing. You are doing nothing. and in that shared stillness, rest deepens naturally. Earlier, we asked a simple question: why does the sky change? We approached it gently without rushing toward an answer. Now, after drifting through clouds, winds, seasons, and stillness, the question feels different, softer, less like something that needs to be solved. The sky changes because it is alive with balance, not alive in the way we are, but alive with motion, exchange, and adjustment. Change is not a disruption to the atmosphere. It is how the atmosphere rests. By moving, it avoids tension. By shifting, it maintains ease. Seen this way, weather is not a series of interruptions. In an otherwise stable world, it is the stability. The slow reshaping of air and energy keeps extremes from lasting too long. Nothing holds its position forever. Nothing is forced to remain uncomfortable. This understanding brings a quiet reassurance. If change is natural for the sky, it can be natural for you too. Thoughts change, sensations shift, wakefulness fades, sleep arrives. None of this needs to be controlled. It is simply balance finding a new arrangement. As you listen now, the sky outside may still be changing in small ways. Air cooling slightly, pressure easing, a distant breeze adjusting its path. These movements no longer need explanation. They can exist without your attention, continuing their gentle work while you rest. The question remains, but it no longer feels urgent. Why does the sky change? Because movement is how it stays kind. Because flow is gentler than stillness held too long. And because change, when slow and patient, is what allows everything else to rest. As this journey begins to slow, it becomes easier to feel how completely you are held. Not just by the air above you, but by systems far larger than thought. The atmosphere adjusting pressure, the oceans releasing stored warmth, the earth turning steadily through space. None of these require your awareness, yet all of them support this moment of rest. Weather science, when seen gently, is not about prediction or control. It is about belonging. You belong to cycles that know how to continue without instruction. The air will keep moving. Temperatures will keep softening through the night. Morning will arrive whether you watch for it or not. There is relief in letting the world carry itself. You do not need to monitor conditions. You do not need to prepare for change. Balance is being maintained at scales far beyond effort, and that balance includes you, exactly as you are now. As your breathing slows, you're syncing with these systems naturally. Inhale, exhale, heat released, coolness welcomed. You're participating simply by being here. Nothing more is required. If thoughts appear, they can be part of this system too, rising gently, settling again, never needing to resolve. Like weather, they move until balance returns, and then they fade. This is what it means to rest inside Earth systems, to trust that motion continues safely while you let go, to allow yourself to be one quiet element within something vast, steady, and kind. The ski does not need your attention to continue. Clouds will form and fade, air will rise and rest. Temperatures will drift through the night toward morning. Weather will go on telling its quiet story, whether you are awake to hear it or already asleep. There is comfort in this independence. The world does not pause when you rest, and it does not require your vigilance. You are free to step back, to soften awareness, to let consciousness dim like evening light behind clouds. As this journey comes to a close, there is nothing left to understand, nothing left to follow. The ideas can loosen and drift away, just as clouds dissolve when conditions change. What remains is calm, carried by repetition and balance. If sleep has already begun to arrive, you can let these final words pass unnoticed. If you're still listening, you can rest in the knowing that there is nowhere else to go. The sky will continue, the earth will continue, and you can rest inside that continuation. Everything flows. Sleep in that motion,